Oh, it's beautiful. Oh, it's beautiful, beautiful. Oh, it's really cold here in Nebraska. It is cold. My name is Reinhold Marxhausen, and I'm an artist and an art professor here at Concordia College in Seward, Nebraska. And I'm also an inventor, and I'd like to share with you some of the toys that I've invented. I'm 63 years old, and I'm an artist, but I like to play around a lot. And while I play around, I did make all kinds of interesting discoveries. And I'd like to share with you some of those discoveries I've made over the years. When I was a little boy growing up in Minnesota, instead of taking piano lessons, I decided to make my own instruments. And I picked up empty whiskey bottles from the ditches in Minnesota, and I tuned them with water. And I made an instrument called a bottle phone. And I had 40 bottles suspended, and they were tuned with water, and I played it with 4 mallets. I played that in high school. And I also learned to play a carpenter saw in high school, and I still play a carpenter saw. And I made a xylophone out of plate glass. Those are some of the instruments I made in high school. So I've been interested in sound my whole lifetime, even though I'm a visual artist. But sound has been an intriguing phenomenon in my life. All right. Several years, in 1960, I was in the process of making a piece of sculpture. I wanted to make a mobile. I wanted to suspend something from the ceiling to represent the planets. And I took a doorknob and I welded some wires on the doorknobs, like that. And it was supposed to be a sun. It was supposed to move around the ceiling like that. And just out of curiosity, I put the doorknob to my ear and I plucked those wires and I heard this beautiful sound coming from the doorknob. And I really liked that. So if one doorknob produced an interesting sound, then I thought a stereo would be a lot better. So I took 2 doorknobs, put a strap across the top, and I produced a thing I called Moon Music Maker. In 1960, a Moon Music Maker. Fits on your head like this, and you can go around. And the nice thing about it is no one else can hear the sound except you. It's a very intimate, private kind of sound. And a variation of that would be to do something like this. And again, the doorknobs and the nice sound. Someone tried to develop this into a marketable toy, but they couldn't because it was a very dangerous object. You could hurt yourself and poke out your eyes. So it was too dangerous this way. So 20 years later, I got the idea, if this is too dangerous, instead of having wires outside, why not put the wires inside the doorknob? And I produced something which is called Stardust. Do you have sound there? Can I go up there and shake it to your... Yeah. Oh, here. So I put the wires inside, and I produced something which I call Stardust. And Stardust is magic. There you go. And it's made so that you can put it in your hand or your pocket. You can carry it with you. You can share it with people. And it's really a marvelous little item. So Stardust really came from this. And it was 20 years between this and this idea. That's Stardust. Several years ago, while I was playing around in my studio, I discovered that Styrofoam amplifies sound. Now, most people I've talked to think that Styrofoam muffles sound, and Styrofoam is used to soundproof rooms. But really, Styrofoam amplifies sound. If you've ever taken your thumb and your finger and you've rubbed it against a piece of Styrofoam, it makes a big sound and it squeaks. Why does it squeak? Why does it have a big sound? That's amplification. Or if you've ever put a beer cooler on top of your head and talked inside of it, you have this wonderful amplified sound. And really, it's amplification that Styrofoam does instead of soundproofing. And I've talked to a lot of science teachers now. I haven't found a single one who knew that Styrofoam amplifies sound. And so here's a piece of Styrofoam and here's a wire. You know, here's a wire. And when I plug it in, it doesn't make a sound at all, but when I plug it in, and when you unplug it, it's quiet. So Styrofoam amplifies sound. See? And you can put this on top of your head and plug in the wire, and you can walk around and have a poor man's Walkman. Poor man's Walkman. So if Styrofoam amplifies sound, then there are all kinds of things you can do with Styrofoam. So here's an instrument. So you can make instruments out of and here's a cooler. Here's a little cooler. That's a wonderful. And here's this sounds like a Japanese kyoto, and these are Styrofoam coffee cups, and they're inverted, and there are some monofilament lines that go across the cups. And this is a piece of Styrofoam. And you tune them by just moving these cups back and forth like that. It really has a very nice sound. And here's another instrument made out of Styrofoam. So since it doesn't have to be hollow, it can be any shape or size you want it to be. So that's Styrofoam and all the applications. Several years ago, well, maybe 20 years ago, I invented a toy called the Flurry. And it's really honeycomb paper. It's honeycomb paper. And it's an adult toy, and it's made for adults to play in their office when nobody else is looking. And so we put them out in the market, and no one bought them because they didn't know what to do with them. You know, I thought this would be fun to buy something like that and have each person discover what you can do with this object. And so since nobody was buying them because they didn't know what to do with it, we had to put instructions in there. We had to put instructions how to play with this Flurry. And it really killed me to have to do that. But I suppose if people don't play, then you have to show them how to play. But anyway, Flurry is an adult toy. It's really nice. You can fling it around. And do some neat things like that. It's better than an exercise machine. Okay. I'm not going to play the saw, but I do play a saw, and small saws. They're not big saws at all. So I showed you Styrofoam, Moon Music Makers, and I have one more form to share with you, and I call them the singing rods, or let's call them the singing rods. And they're just aluminum. They're aluminum rods. They're tuned with a piano, and they're all color coded. So this is a purple, has a purple marking on, and the purple ones are D's. So here's the chromatic scale, and so here's the colors to play Old Lang Syne. There's Old Lang Syne right like that. So I have these lined up here to play Old Lang Syne one note at a time. And there are different ways of playing the rods. Let me just show you what it sounds like so you get the feeling of the sound. So this is Old Lang Syne. That's where it's at. And if you want to know what Old Lang Syne sounds like when it's played all at once instead of in the sequence, there, that was Old Lang Syne. Another way of playing these rods is to go out in a parking lot or in a shopping mall and to throw them out so that they dance. So they dance in space, in the air. It's really a nice sound to have those rods skittering across the parking lot. Some go like cartwheels. And it's also nice to get on top of a fire escape and to drop them down on the fire escape onto the cement and have them bounce up on the sidewalk. So that's my most recent invention. It's called the singing rods, and it's an outdoor environmental kind of instrument that utilizes space. It's a very nice instrument to play with.